No, but there's a scene where the wolf cop has sex with Jessica in a jail cell, and it's probably, I'd say, one of the best scenes in this whole damn movie. But the way the thing is cut, like the way it's edited, that's why I'm saying, like, I really think that it's a body double. That's the official term, by the way. That's the real term, not just stunt tits. But
I like stunt tits.
I like Isn't that t-shirt, John? I like stunt tits.
Well, there's a movie, All the Right Moves, with Tom Cruise, and he goes to like make sexy time with his high school sweetheart in there.
Yeah,
and that is totally a stunt dick, because you could see it. It's in shadow, but he's hung like a horse. I'm like, that's not Tom Cruise's dick. That's a stunt dick.
That's a stunt dick.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, and my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Wolf penis.
Oh, wolf penis. You know, they always say that, like, your audience should know exactly what your podcast is going to be about in, like, the first 30 seconds. So I'm pretty sure that saying wolf penis, like, pretty much just give them.
We're film snobs and dirty minded, so I should say like cinema verite, wolf penis. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're on episode 261, and this week we are joined by a very special guest. But before I mention our guests, again, I'm going to do our call to action thing. If you haven't yet, if you're on your phone or laptop or whatever, and you like this show, if you listen to it for a while, do me a favor, hit a tap on the follow or the subscribe and like the show. Follow us on our Discord channel. The link for it is in the show notes. This discussion, which we're going to be talking about Wolfcop, which is a hilarious movie, take it on the go with us. You know, you can go and either, you know, talk about wolf penis, peni or penises, multiples.
Pinnacles.
Yeah, wolf pinnacles. You can talk about wolf pinnacles on our Discord channel. But go ahead and check that out. Now, getting back, we're in episode 261. We've got a special guest. Our special guest is the director of a new movie that's going to be premiering in Pittsburgh, literally down the street from where I live. I'm not even kidding about that, Mark. I live probably about 5 blocks away from the Hollywood Theater in Dormont. And there's a reason why I can't go to your premiere, and it's because it's my wife's and mine anniversary. That's the only reason. But we're joined with Mark Cantu, the director of the new movie Wolf Hollow. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah. And what better wedding gift or anniversary gift would there be than to take her to the red carpet premiere? I'm just saying.
I should ask her if she wants to.
I'm just saying. Put it out there as an option.
I will put it out there. I'll put it. Here's the thing, man. Like, I have 4 kids, so like it becomes an issue every time. Like, do you have kids, right?
I got 3. Yeah.
Okay, so you get it. Like, every time you want to go out, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, we have to go through the order of operations to get to the point of going out. So it's like, do we have coverage for the children?
To be fair, to be fair, our kids are older, so they just take care of themselves.
Oh, you are. Oh man, I'm so looking forward to that.
We literally, like, sometimes we'll be driving back from work, and I'm like, "Hey, your mom and I are going to dinner. You guys take care of yourselves." We're like, "All right." And we're at that point now. So I relate, but those years are behind us now.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward.
Yeah,
to that.
It's glorious. It's nice.
But yeah, Wolf Hollow, new movie, all about werewolves. I gotta be honest with you, Mark. I like werewolves, but like I've always been a vampire fan. It's just me. But
yeah, like, and we always find people like that. Like, you fall into one camp or the other. But yeah, I'm not gonna make you choose. Not gonna make you choose at all.
Not gonna choose. But I gotta say, like, I saw the trailer for Wolf Hollow, and holy shit, it is a fucking awesome movie.
We definitely bring it. Yeah, we definitely bring it. So,
yeah. So Mark had put out that he was doing this movie and that the premiere was happening. And so I reached out. I'm like, hey, you know what? Come on the show, talk about Wolf Hollow. And oh yeah, if you got a werewolf movie that you want to show up to us, and we'll review it. You could be our guest reviewer. And you suggested Wolfcop, and I had always seen Wolfcop like on Amazon Prime. I already seen it on like Tubi, and I'm like, I gotta be in the mood for that sort of thing because like it's clearly like I wouldn't call it an awesomely bad because it's not really a bad movie.
It's not, and that's the thing is it sneaks in there, and so. Yeah, it was one of those weird titles where like I was doing like I was telling you earlier, I was doing research for Wolf Hollow, and it just kind of came up on the radar as, you know, just the list of werewolf movies, and I was like, what the fuck is, I was like, I had literally never heard of it. And so I kind of watched the trailer and I was like, I'm kind of digging this because I love movies like Psycho Goreman and like just like tongue in cheek. You know, it's like a fastball down the middle of the plate. It's just a greasy cheeseburger of a movie. It's not trying to be any high art or anything like that, but it's done well. And I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, "Oh, that's got to be it. Like, I've got to have friends over to have drinks and just like, you know, bullshit and watch the movie." And sure enough, like we wound up watching it with my wife and her girlfriend. And it was probably one of the best nights we've had watching a movie. It was just so insane. So.
Yeah, I mean, the movie pretty much had me at the face getting torn off, and the skeleton face is still, he's still like moving around, and I'm like, oh man,
trimming his head off,
yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
Brian, it had me a lot earlier. I
mean, it had me a lot earlier, but I'm just saying, like,
but I'm just saying when he like starts to pull out and has to open his car door to vomit, I'm like, we've all been there, mate.
Yeah.
So it didn't have you when they showed his wolf cock.
That's when I finished.
That's when he finished. Yeah, it was a full thing.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, this movie I had seen it, but I never like pressed play on it, and it was always just one of those ones I'm like, I'll get to it. But I'm glad that you brought this because I discovered that there's not only a Wolf Cop 1, but there's a second one.
The second one is like, if you enjoyed the first one, hold on to your fucking hats because like the second one is even, it's like turned up to not even 11, it's like 22 at that point. Like, I mean, they go balls out in that second one. So yeah,
I might have to check
that's another one because I bought the double disc. I bought the 1 and 2 pack with the first one and the second one. And sure enough, that second one, like I said, is just absolutely crazy. So I love it's definitely more. It's kind of like Temple of Doom, where it's like the first one was Raiders, and the second one's like, we know what we're doing here. We're just gonna go all out. We're not even really focused on story. We're just gonna have a good time, and that's it. So if that's what you're looking for in the second one, you'll get it. So
nice. So for our uninitiated who are not sure what the hell this movie is, what Wolfcop is. First of all, shame on you, because it literally is free to watch. It's free to watch everywhere. So, like, I'm getting this from IMDb. You can, call it whatever it is. But this movie came out in 2014. And here's the official tagline, which I love this. And because I know every once in a while IMDb, like, they give you nothing to go on in terms of what the movie's about. So this is the official tagline. As a series of strange and violent events begin to occur, an alcoholic policeman realizes that he has been turned into a werewolf as part of a larger plan.
That's not right. That sums it up.
That sounds about right, but it's like doesn't really tell me much.
Anything. Yeah.
It doesn't tell me shit. But yeah, this movie is crazy because it as I said, it kind of it doesn't feel like a The Room. It doesn't feel like a Birdemic even. It feels like the filmmakers behind this like knew what the fuck they were doing. Like they were competent. The shots were great in this. The special effects were like over the top in quote, and I'd say at the barrier of cheesy, but it was like you could tell there was still quality there. It wasn't like someone just cheaped out on that. But like the filmmakers clearly know what they're doing. They're in on the joke. And that's why I say this movie isn't an awesomely bad, like you would see with like the Rumor Birdemic, where you
It's just an
clearly
awesome movie. Yeah.
It's just an awesome movie. It's like you're eating a pixie stick. That's what it honestly is. It's
Brian,
like
yeah.
watching.
They're clearly competent. It's one of those things that when you're unknown, you gotta throw out a wild idea.
Yeah.
You know, if you imagine this is in like the bin of movies at a Dollar General, what are you gonna look at? You know, terms of endearment or Wolfcop? It's like, oh, Wolfcop,
Right.
you know, and there's a guy in a wolf in a sheriff's outfit with a gun. It's like, I want to watch that, you know.
Yeah.
Throw in some blood, some titties. You got yourself a winning formula for an independent filmmaker.
I got
Well,
some
and the way
comments on the titties.
Yeah, the
on
way
this
I
one,
pitched
by
it
the way.
to, I was gonna say the way I pitched it to my friends and everything is like as they kind of like they were aware of it during production. I was like, guys, I was like, it's kind of like a grindhouse movie, but like the way Edgar Wright made Hot Fuzz,
Yes.
where it's like we're in on the joke, we know, but we're a really high level, type of filmmaker, but there's going to be a lot of grindhouse. There's going to be a lot of just over the top qualities to everything, but it's done with so much love. Like they know what they're doing, but they also know how to go just balls out on stuff. So yeah, that's the way I pitched it to everybody. And they're like, oh yeah, then we got to watch that shit.
Yeah. So getting into this movie, let's talk first a little bit about the town of Woodhaven, also known as Canada Land.
Right.
Saskatchewan.
It's Saskatchewan, yes. Yeah. Yeah, but Woodhaven is kind of I find it hilarious. Like the scene where Lou Galoog, which has got to be like one of the best names for a character.
Yeah, because like Lou Guru is like another name for werewolf. Like
yeah. But he's driving around as a cop and he's just looking at all the shit in this town. And this town is literally an alcoholic's paradise because everyone's shit-faced. You've got, homeless people beating the shit out of other people. And like even the people who are getting the shit kicked out of them, like there's a scene where he stops by and you see like these group of people beating up on some guy and they just look over him like, mind your own business, asshole.
Right.
It's like Hill Valley, like the alternate Hill Valley when Marty comes back.
Like it's Biff's
head. Right.
Yeah. And like the police station has like, pigs and fuck you all sprayed across it and no one seems to care. Like it's
right.
The town itself is a character in this. But the alcoholism part is just crazy. It's like everyone in the town is either drinking or they're eating donuts that have alcohol in them.
Is that what that's supposed to infer?
That's what I took it as.
I see. There's a place in North Carolina called Biscuits and Porn, and the biscuits aren't.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not that the biscuits are sexy. It's just that they sell like biscuit sandwiches and pornography. So I just thought that the store was basically saying we sell donuts and liquor. That's.
I mean.
I think it's kind of a play on words like lick her donut.
Lick her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell that Mark has watched this movie more than once.
A couple of times. Of times.
That's cool, man. I mean, I looked at it from a standpoint of almost like, you ever been to like a beer distributor and they now have like adult slushies? And it's clearly like, just pure grain alcohol mixed in.
They've injected rum into the buttercream donut.
Yeah, like a Boston cream quite literally is filled with, vodka. That's kind of what I figured it as.
That's solid.
That's solid. It's good culinary.
Right, exactly. It's a great business model.
I'm sure I could sell somebody on that. Let me tell you something. You want to open a bakery, you got to fill those donuts and muffins all filled with grain alcohol, and you will sell them like hotcakes.
And my God, you're a genius.
Yeah. So yeah, the town is literally a shithole, and the whole premise is that the town is deciding on a new mayor. So like that's going on, and then they have this weird festival called the Drink and Shoot. Which
this seems like a bad idea.
The whole thing seems like a bad idea. So it's like, okay, it's a tradition. Everybody in the town gets a gun and they get a drink. They drink, and have a firearm and go out into the woods and shoot the monster in the woods because there's like a Woodhaven beast that roams and stalks the land and kills cats and shit.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this is supposed to be a mythical creature. This isn't supposed to be a real thing. But so everybody's just shooting guns at each other drunk.
Yeah. I'm just like,
That'll end well.
Yeah.
well, I just had to be like, this isn't America, so like you don't have to do that shit, man. Like,
They're like, no, we're
this is
willingly
clearly
doing it.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the drink and shoot's kind of a tradition in Woodhaven, along with spray painting and having gangs with pig masks because that's a thing too. Whatever. I guess they were trying to be kind of like the gangs in Gotham and things like that from Batman. But we're introduced to Lugalug, and Lugalug is not only an alcoholic, but he's quite literally the worst cop of all time. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that was something that I'm glad that the third act tried to explain away how he's still a police officer.
He should not be a police officer.
Right. But there's obviously, not to jump too far ahead. And I guess spoiler alerts if you guys haven't seen this. But,
Right.
But they had to keep him a cop so he could transform into the werewolf or the big, thing during the eclipse.
The thing.
And
Spoiler alert. Yes.
and so I didn't understand there's shapeshifters in this movie.
Yes.
But please explain to me how the sitting mayor, the female mayor,
Yes.
is the same woman as the bartender. How did nobody not notice that the other one was gone for swaths of time? She has to
yes.
open. She runs that bar every day. When is she the mayor?
Off hours.
Uh,
Between the hours of 2 a.m. and 7, I don't know.
Isn't there a live broadcast while she's working at the bar with the mayor talking about her?
Okay, I did think about this. Okay, so I did think about this. Now, the shapeshifters could probably transform into the other characters that the other shapeshifters are. So more than likely, when she is in sexy bartender
waitress mode,
sexy bartender mode, she one of the other shapeshifters, either the chief or the other guy, also known as the goalie from the movie Goon, underrated movie, by the way. It's my personal opinion. Maybe they're changing into the mayor. Someone takes the role of mayor for the day.
I don't know. They never seem to transform out of any other person than their main character throughout the movie.
Suspension.
But that makes sense, but it does track. So,
I'm looking at it like Higgins, who's the guy played by Jonathan Cherry from the movie Goon, and also Final Destination Part 2, which I didn't realize that. But I figure he probably takes over the role of mayor during the day because no one seems to go to his gun shop. It seems to kind of always be abandoned, and he's always doing conspiracy theory shit, which I'm just if they made this movie in America, you gotta definitely guess this guy would be all QAnon and up.
Yeah.
Well, and this movie's made in Canada where there's nobody going into the gun shop,
Yeah, that's that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. It's everyone's all obsessed about the drink and shoot, but no one is going to the gun shop in the run up to it.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem worried about that at all. This is going to absolutely destroy his business. But that would have been a great reveal is after he had banged the hot bartender lady as the wolf. If it had turned out that it was actually his chief.
Oh, that would be gross.
Well, we got to make sure Wolfcop has a case of the not gays.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, getting back to Galoo, he's the worst cop on the force. He's an alcoholic, and as you said, Johnny, literally getting out of his house, throws up in the car, and gets back to the sheriff's office, and sure enough, I love the fact that they have a whiteboard that says cases solved and has Lou as one case, and Tina, who's the goody two shoes partner, has 20 cases.
Right.
It's just to rub it in your face. I can't see any police station having something like that. Haha, you didn't solve today. Lou.
No gold star for you.
Except the mystery of why you have cirrhosis of the liver. We all know that.
See, I had a hard time. Was his dad a cop? 'Cause I was very
Yes.
confused. Okay, and he was like, his dad was a good cop.
He
and
was
then-
a good cop.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We got one line about that.
And do we know why he's such a drunk?
No.
Oh, that's never explained. Yeah, because even in the second one, they don't really go that far with it.
Although spoilers again, I mean, I don't know why we say spoilers. The movie is like from 2014. So we do find that part of the reason why he is so powerful as a werewolf is because of his alcoholism. Which I'm like, how does that one work?
1 + 1 = chair, Brian.
I know, but
you're right.
like even there's a scene when he's like ready to rip apart somebody, and he, like Popeye the Sailor Man,
right,
literally downs his flask and is like, "All right, I'm ready to fuck people up." And I'm just like,
I think he's like Jackie Chan's like drunken master, where it's just kind of like,
okay, okay,
that's what I'm going with.
that's what you're going with. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's a movie about a cop who turns into a werewolf. So I mean, why look any
I think
deeper
we're
into it?
overthinking it at that point.
Let's be honest here, Mark. You're on a podcast with a bunch of filmmakers just like yourself. That's why.
Exactly.
We can't just be normal assholes and say, movie, good job.
You're like, but why? You're like, just take it for face value.
Yeah. So yeah, Lou is kind of told by Higgins, who I love Higgins in this. He's got some good lines in it. He's clearly like just a goofball for the sake of being a goofball, except for that turn towards the end of the movie. But, he comes in and he's like, there's some weird devil worshiping shit going on my property. I'm going to do citizen's arrest. And the chief, who we find out later is in on the shenanigans, tells Lou, okay, go out in the woods and solve the crime of teenagers doing devil worshiping shit. And that's where we find out a couple things, right? We find out what? Well, we find out that there's some like human sacrifice shit going on with the one mayoral candidate who's really like getting ripped apart. We see the aftermath of it, which I got comments on how they found his body, because it just seems like crazy overkill. Don't you think it seems like crazy overkill? Like the next morning they find the body, and sure enough, like his neck's been ripped open, and oh yeah, by the way, he's got track marks all over his arm and a needle sticking out, and I'm like,
yeah, it seems desperately random, like the elaboration of a bad liar. Like,
it's almost like if someone said, okay, we're gonna pull the full Rasputin on him, so he's gonna get run over, he's gonna get stabbed, shot, hung. And oh yeah, let's just cut his dick off for good measure. And yeah,
it's like
make
Vigo.
sure to.
Yeah,
it's like what?
Like Vigo.
It is like Vigo. You're right. It's totally Vigo right there. But yeah, so after this whole human sacrifice thing, Lou gets caught by the weird shapeshifters. We don't know the shapeshifters yet. And he has like a pentagram carved into his chest. And sure enough, we then get the whole thing where he starts to have all sorts of sensory issues. He's smelling things. His hearing's really good, which for someone who's an alcoholic the day before kind of should be concerning. And they discover the murder scene, and sure enough, he's like, this doesn't seem like a crazy, animals got to him. It seems like there's a murder. So now the mystery's afoot. And this leads Lou to kind of do some researching and trying to figure out kind of what happened, because ultimately, I forgot to mention this, the mayor decides that they're going to cancel the drink and shoot, get everyone out of the woods.
Yeah, and I can't imagine why.
Why would you
like
want
a smart
to do that?
Jones, right?
Yeah.
It's like a smart Jaws. That's right. It is kind of like a smart Jaws. Almost like you're thinking, wow, this mayor is considerate.
They're
for the
exactly.
people.
They're kind. Yeah.
They're kind.
Goddamn Canada.
Goddamn Canada. They probably don't lock their doors at all.
Right.
But they'll have guns and alcohol. No big deal. Yeah. So Lou doesn't buy that this was an accident or just a drug overdose, and so he's doing some research in the bar, and this is where the sexy bartender, which I don't even know what the hell her name is.
Her name is Jessica.
Jessica in this. Sorry, I've been calling her sexy bartender the whole time.
That's all she is, though. You could tell the director literally told her, like, walk hot, and no matter what you're doing. Like, when you're throwing out garbage, do it sexy. And it's just like,
I mean, I would say she's just there. She's doing it with the boobs and stuff, but like clearly those aren't hers. The way they cut this thing, that's not her. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
I think that's her.
I think those are stunt tits. I really do.
Stunt tits. Bring in the stunt tits.
No, I think it is, because like if you go to that sex scene, which I know we're jumping ahead, guys, but come on, it's a movie about a wolf who turns into a cop. Okay, or cop turns into a wolf.
Right.
Cop
that would have been a great movie.
That would have been hilarious.
It's like a wolf, like a werewolf who gets turned into a cop, has to do paperwork the whole movie. Like, man.
Trying to type with his nails.
Yeah, or just I was trying to chase my tail, and now I got to do all this paperwork with a parking infraction. No, but there's a scene where the wolf cop has sex with Jessica in a jail cell, and it's probably, I'd say, one of the best scenes in this whole damn movie. But the way the thing is cut, like the way it's edited, that's why I'm saying, like, I really think that it's a body double. That's the official term, by the way. That's the real term, not just stunt tits. But
I like stunt tits.
I like in that T-shirt, John. I like stunt tits.
Well, there's a movie, All the Right Moves, with Tom Cruise, and he goes to like make sexy time with his high school sweetheart in there.
Yeah,
and that is totally a stunt dick, because you could see it. It's in shadow, but he's hung like a horse. I'm like, that's not Tom Cruise's dick. That's a stunt dick.
That's a stunt dick.
Are we sure?
Are we sure?
Maybe that's why he's so confident. Like, he feels he can't die doing all these stunts because he's got like a 12-inch pole.
Like, I'll wear heels in public, but damn, I got a huge cock. So
he's not Fassbender, though, right, John?
Oh, nobody is.
There's only one Fassbender.
Yeah.
There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Fassbender, the ass mender, you know?
Oh, man. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. Wolf sex scenes. So the reason why I think that there's some a body double in place is because, like, I noticed that every single time they went to the tits, like, you never saw the head. You never saw Jessica's head. It was always like in close up, and maybe even like close medium shot, but it was never like you could never see your head. And that usually when you see something like that, that's just kind of a clue to me that there's clearly a body double.
Yeah, I feel, because there's a scene where, he's going wolf missionary on her, and that would have been a perfect opportunity for her to be topless, but she's not. Yeah.
He's not. So that's what I'm saying is I think there is a body double in place. I'm sure that we probably just lost like a whole bunch of listeners because they're like, why are these
like, what the fuck are we listening
Why are these
to?
three men arguing the tenets of whether a body double was used in a wolf sex scene? And it's like, well, this is an explicit podcast.
It's for art, guys.
It's for art.
By the way, I just in an incognito tab, by the way, I just Googled wolf penis, and that is the ugliest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. So they indicate that she blows.
I love how you say you did it in an incognito tag. Like, you're worried about what people
I don't
figuring
want my
out.
Google history having that in it.
You don't want to be like accidentally teaching a class and you go to Google to search up like lighting or some shit. And sure enough, their first thing that pops up in your search is wolf penis.
I would have been like, it's one of those code words, like dead cat for
it's
a
dead
microphone?
cat or C47.
Yeah,
wolf penis.
Wolf penis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good save, guys. Good save.
Good save. That's what it is.
It's another word for a boom pole. It's a wolf penis.
I dare you to do that next time you're making a movie, John.
Just ask.
I was gonna say, just ask some poor PA. I'm not gonna say a grip because a grip will be like, no. or I'm not doing this. But like a PA, some guy who's like, or girl who's just right out of film school, and you just say, all right, go get the wolf penis and some gaffer's tape, please. They'd be like, what is this?
Or if you're calling for the dead cat, because why is dead cat more appropriate than wolfcock?
That's fair. Well,
true.
actually, as I just found out, the wolfcock doesn't have any fur on it. It actually just looks like a turnip that rotted in a garbage can. You know. She blew this.
Gone off the rails at this point.
I knew this episode was going to go off the rails, and don't worry, Mark. We'll get back to talking about wolfcock.
I think the moment you guys saw the wolfcock in the movie,
it's the
like
whole
we were doomed. We were doomed.
Well, yeah, like he's literally taking a piss. Lugalug. He's taking a piss, and first of all, he doesn't seem to be too concerned that he's pissing blood.
For him, that's probably not
very true.
He doesn't seem to be too concerned. He's just like, oh, look at that. I'm pissing blood. And then he starts to get the pain. And suddenly we see his human penis rip apart into a wolf dick. Like they completely show that happening.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I was saying, before we start recording, I'm like, this has got to be one of the, I'm not going to say best, because clearly American Werewolf in London still kind of ranks high. Even I would say
one of the ballsiest transitions.
Look at you. Yes, one of the ballsiest transitions for an indie film. I'll say that. There you go, for an indie film. Because clearly there's a lot of work that has to go into making these sort of werewolf transitions. And clearly they didn't just go for like do a opacity fade over 5 or 6 takes. We're actually going to show what happens. But like it was nice because it's this whole like ripped apart skin look, which I've only seen that done a couple times. Like I think I think it was Trick or Treat did that. With the
girls at the campfire.
Yeah, like Trick or Treat did that.
How does the skin come back?
Good question.
I think maybe it's like one of those things where it's like the way they initially tear the skin off, I think maybe the wolf skin comes off as well the same way. Maybe?
Or maybe it's something to the effect of like the hair just falls off and his like muscle structure and everything goes back.
Just returns back. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like he loses all the hair and everything else just shrinks back to normal.
I think this is Catwoman meets the Santa Claus.
With
a little bit of the Fly in there.
So it's cat people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
It's cat people. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Wolfcop. So the whole premise of this movie, honestly, is just that Lugalug is an idiot, and this cabal of 3 shapeshifters who want to live forever because these fuckers have been running the town, and this is the reason why Woodhaven is such a shithole, is because these 3 assholes have been running this place for like 200 years. And every like 32 years, they need to drink the blood of a werewolf and sacrifice someone who's like pure of heart. So the mayoral candidate who was like, I'm going to clean up the town. Yeah, they decided, okay, well, there's our human sacrifice. And Lou is going to be kind of our werewolf that we need to create, which I get why they do that, but it just seems like you're opening yourself up to shit like what happens at the end of this movie happening, because werewolves are pretty fucking strong and could rip you apart, and I don't think they thought that one through. Wouldn't you agree?
I feel like they've got their plan kind of down to a science at that point, and they're just like, oh, we've done this 1,000 times before, so I feel like they're kind of maybe overconfident in being able to kind of steer Lou in the right direction. So that's
why Lou?
That I don't really know.
Why Lou? Well, I mean, they made mention that like Lou's father was I think he was probably the good of heart person that they sacrificed before.
Yeah, and then the lady cop, the by the books lady cop, her dad was also a werewolf.
Yeah, he was the werewolf that the bartender, sexy bartender, made the sex time with, because she clearly says like this, this isn't the first werewolf I fucked.
Yeah, she's had some more of that Wolfcock in the past.
It's a hilarious scene. Like I can't going back to it, but
It's up there with Team America.
It really is. Like
Yeah.
you've got like inside the jail cell, there's literally candles all over the place. It's played off like a really bad Lifetime sex scene, and it's hilarious.
All in slow-mo.
All in slow-mo.
Shot beautifully.
Oh, it's classic terrible cinema. Classic.
So I will go one further for you. So I'm
Okay.
not going to spoil the entire thing for you, but if you guys get around to watching the second one,
Yeah.
there is a sex scene in that which will, holy shit, blow your fucking mind. It's 1,000 times better than that one. So I'm not going to tell you the people that are involved in it, because that's the surprise. But that one is even worse than Wolfcop.
Wow. You're setting the bar pretty high up there, Mark.
I'm not even able to set the bar as high as fucking that sex scene. Like it goes way over the top. Way over the top.
Yeah.
Wolfcock has sex with an ocelot.
You're not far off.
Oh God. Not far off. Now moving on a little bit with this. I do want to talk a little bit about the effects that they did in this. What were your guys' thoughts on the effects in this movie?
Some worked, some did not.
Okay, John, which ones didn't work?
Anytime that like they had to do something like in real time, like when a guy gets his face slashed, and I'm like, that is sophomore college scratch marks on the face. Like, yeah, but if they did something where it's like he's holding up a face he ripped off, like they obviously knew how to make something look like, you know, actual skin. And it's like, okay, that's good, that works. You know, I think it depends on sleight of hand. If they had the opportunity to have sleight of hand via editing or trick photography or something like that, then they got away with it. But when they had to try to make something look like it was happening in real time, I was like, ugh, I don't know.
Mark,
yeah,
what do you think?
there's a couple of rough moments for sure. And I think it's one of those things, I mean, having been on this side of it in terms of production, I think it's probably one of those things where you look at it and you go, all right, we don't have the money for all 20 of these, so we're going to put our money on the 5 that we know are going to really, you know, sell. And then the other ones we'll just try to figure it out. And so I think maybe there's a few in there that you can kind of tell where it's like, yeah, you could have shot that better. You could have, you know, moved the lights around a bit more to kind of hide seams and things like that. But for my money, honestly, where he rips the guy's face off,
Yes.
and then the guy winds up kind of screaming with Willie. I mean, that's probably one of the funniest ones, and it's just performance based too. But that's probably one of my favorite ones to watch, just hands down. So,
well, I think too, it's also worth bringing up. Just like none of this is done for realism. Like nothing here.
Right.
It is totally gonzo, bizarre, grindhouse level. Like you get this idea that one, the whole movie itself, I can almost taste. Like it's got a texture to the whole fucking thing. But like the effects in this thing, they're designed to be ridiculous. Like even when you see the transformation, it's clearly over the top ridiculous.
right.
And like that scene where the one meth head gets his face ripped off, I bust out fucking laughing because like I first thought like, oh well, yeah, he's dead, and then sure enough, a second later, as you said, Mark, like he shows up like right next to Willie, and he's like like screaming,
and they're just screaming at each other, and it's so over the top and goofy. You're like, yeah, I love the I know what I'm in for at that point, especially if you haven't figured it out by that point. But yeah, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So
I think some of the effects are almost purposely a little bit cheesy.
Yeah.
I call it the Grand Theft Auto effect, where, you know, I think that we all have no problem doing unspeakable things in Grand Theft Auto because the graphics aren't overly realistic. So I think that some of the effects coming off like a little cheesy, it helps you just enjoy the zany fun of it. Yeah, it's not overly horrifying where it's like, oh, this may be taking me a little bit out of it.
you're like, we're in a cartoon. We know what we're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah. The only things that I think took me out of it was like the moment where like Lou is trying to find the connection, and you get like the montage scene, and
Yeah.
Like, I know they did that because they needed to have some reasoning to say that Lou's related to all this shit, and it then kind of serves itself towards the end when you find out that Willie and the mayor and the sexy bartender and, you know, the chief are all kind of, you know, the shapeshifters who have basically been grooming Lou to be the werewolf since his dad died.
Right.
But like,
Which is- yeah.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, which is the only reason he still has a job as a police officer.
That's true.
Yeah. Which I'm so glad they explained. You know, I hate that in shows like, and I mean, they're comedy, so I should just relax a little bit. But like, these people are so clearly like, you know, in certain shows like Archer or something, that they are the worst people in the world for this job. They break every rule imaginable, but they just still have a job. You know.
Yeah. But I will say that sequence where he is trying to, like, you know, you see his father's dead and Lou's left behind, and I was like, I don't know, is this necessary?
Yeah.
You know, that's the
I
filmmaker
think,
in me talking, not the.
And I completely agree with that. There's a few rough things with like some of the CGI.
Oh yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, you didn't really use that. I can see why they tried to, you know, implement some of those things. And I did tell one of our friends when we were watching it, I was like, some of the editing, like in those montages, feels like very like early 2000s, kind of like trying to be Blade a little bit. I'm like, yeah, the tonally it just doesn't work for me.
Well, it takes you out of it. Like that's
right.
For me, it took me out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I like his notebook, like Eclipse ? Like, oh wow, he's really taking the heavy notes, you know.
I mean, he hasn't fired that gun in like years, so he's using his brain.
He's like, fur ?
Fur?
Yeah.
Ticks? Fleas?
He's like the Batman of werewolves, guys. He's like,
yeah,
he's a true detective.
Yeah, who just, you know, rips apart people.
Right.
That's how he solves crimes. So yeah, I mean, for me, the effects didn't bug me too much because I knew what I was getting. The CGI, I'm glad you brought it up, Mark, because the CGI scenes, especially with the shapeshifters, like when they get killed, again, spoiling this for you all, but again, the movie's been out since 2014. It's free. We'll link to it in the show notes. But like when the shapeshifters all die, you can clearly tell that they didn't know how they were going to show that. And I don't know why they couldn't just do what they had been doing all through the movie by using sound cues to kind of clue us in that people were changing, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was like, I know you wanted to show it, but like
the
minute you see the flicker on the face and the overlay and you're just like, why?
It just doesn't work. Yeah. And I feel like it's one of those, and again, just kind of speaking as a filmmaker, it's like, it's one of those things where you just reach a little too far and you're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we won't do that next time. So, and to be fair, they learned their lesson in the second one. Like there's a lot more practical in the second one and there's very little CGI, you know, kind of going on. So it's one of those things where I feel like the filmmakers grew a little bit and they're like, you know what? We got it. The note has been taken and moving on.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of time though, you know, digital effects it's time and money. You ran out of time, you ran out of money. Do it in a computer, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, then, this is kind of my final point on this thing that I think didn't really work too well. I don't know about you guys, but did you find that like the sound design in this was way too sharp and artificial at points?
Yeah.
A few here and there. Yeah.
Like it was almost like hyper real. Like everything had a sound effects. Like, and I understand why they did it. Like I just noticed like there were moments where Jessica, the bartender's like walking on the floor. And again, this is I think splitting hairs, wolf hairs maybe. But clearly like they layered in sound effects that hadn't been mixed, that hadn't been EQ'd, that hadn't been like laid out to be part of the room, and it just felt really artificial. And they clearly like ADR'd nearly almost everything in this movie, which I know like John and I can't speak for you, Mark, but like when film school, we were always told like, oh, ADR'd everything. And that really in reality isn't the case. Like
right
on an indie level, you don't really do that. But there were just times for me where like the voices just felt way too artificial. And the sound design felt a little too artificial. Like it was just too much in the post.
Well, and I genuinely wonder about this because I know from kind of being like a film geek where I've listened to like for instance, and again I go back to Hot Fuzz because it's such it's one of my favorite movies ever. But during like some of the commentary, like even on that, like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost kind of confessed that like the last third of the movie, like once they go into action movie mode, everything is ADR'd. And they're like, not because we didn't get sound on the day, but because that's what action movies sound like, is that they're all ADR'd and they're all, you know.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I'm like, and so at that point, it's actually a conscious decision to go, you know what, we're going to go that route because that's what action movies and you know, cheesy B movies sound like. And so to me, I'm wondering if that's part of the calculus there, where it's like, we know that we got sound on the day, but we're going to leave these sounds kind of above everything. So that way they do stand out. They do sound like a grindhouse movie. They do sound like that kind of, you know, genre that we're dancing in. So I'm wondering if that was maybe part of the decision there.
Well, also, you know, what's one thing you can't really afford when you're doing an independent movie? A sound, you know, person out in the field getting your sound effects.
Right.
So I think a lot of the sound effects, the issues you're having with it, Brian, you know, is that like they're just canned sound. So like, and then you're right. They don't get the proper like adjustments to the audio level. So somebody's walking in here.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to hear the foot sounds that high, you know.
Yeah.
And so, that fake.
And I mean, again, maybe it is just kind of the aesthetic here, but it's something to me like in moments where you have that action going on, like when the wolf is ripping everybody apart in the convenience store and in the meth lab barn house thing, like that makes sense to me. But like the moment where Tina is talking to Jessica in the bar and like Tina's voice doesn't match. Yeah. I'm just like, okay. And I get it. Like, if that's the aesthetic, okay, that's the aesthetic. But at some point, you got to ask yourself, is the aesthetic getting in the way of conveying the stuff to my audience?
Or just kind of standing out?
Is it standing out too much?
Yeah.
And, you know, is it worth doing it? So, like, that was my only issue. Like, and this is, again, I know that Wolfcop is a ridiculous, over-the-top, grindhouse style film. And after watching it, I love it for it. But I can't ignore the fact that there were things that clearly took me out of the movie. And that was one of them.
Well, Brian, that scene in general, I had a huge problem with because, like, by the books, Lady Cop shows up to sexy bartender. And she's like, sexy bartender, I hate your guts, you big piece of shit. Whore,
I used to
bitch.
sit right there drinking Shirley Temples with my dad, who you had sex with later as a wolf.
And it's like, why is she so pissed at sexy bartender lady? I'm like, oh, it's because she's gonna turn on the good guy in like 2 scenes from now. So they just had to force us to like not like.
You have to have conflict, yeah.
Well, I was almost thinking like, is that like her stepmom or something? Who's like, is that what we're doing, or like she just bought the bar out from under her? Like they don't go into too much.
No, there's a lot of things that are really missing of the finer details, and a lot of things are told, not shown. So it's just kind of like, well, yeah, you know, and your dad was a good cop. What was that? What was that? You know, like his dad was a cop too. Did I hear something? You know,
hello, Officer Exposition.
Yeah.
Officer Exposition.
Yeah.
So Wolfcop is a great movie. I mean, honestly, like final thoughts on it before we jump into talking about Wolf Hollow. I was pleasantly surprised. I really thought that it was going to be like a bad movie, like unwatchably bad, because I've been burned before. And like, you know, when you see for every Psycho Gorman, there is about 1,000. There's about 1,000 the asylum. Well, just the asylum movies. Like that's what you get. So like when you told me, Mark, like, oh, we're gonna watch Wolfcop, I'm like, oh no, is it gonna be bad? But no, it wasn't. It was pleasantly surprisingly.
I wouldn't steer you
funny.
wrong, guys.
I know. So I was really entertained by it, and like, you know, I'm looking forward to now watching Wolfcop 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo.
Right, there you go.
But John, Mark, what are your final thoughts on Wolfcop before we talk a bit about Wolf Hollow?
I'll just since obviously Mark, you introduced this to us, I'll start so you can wrap it up. I was terrified because from the opening sequence being very good, because like how many times have you have a horrible movie and then they're like, okay, we're just gonna hire somebody who's better than us to like do a really flashy opening and hopefully that'll distract people and they'll think they're watching a good movie. Yeah. But the fact that it didn't, that it was still a good movie after that, I was like, oh, thank God. Because I was worried, Brian, like you were. But yeah, no, it's goofy fun. Like I know that this is not for everybody. Like if you don't like tongue in cheek, goofy exploitation kind of movies, then this isn't for you. But if that's up your alley, this one is definitely a must watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I for me personally, like I said, it's a solid 8 out of 10, just because, like I said, it doesn't take itself seriously. The performances are actually surprisingly good, like especially Willie. Like he's one of my favorite characters in the entire fucking series. So, but the acting's, like I said, surprisingly good. It's shot really well in certain sequences. Like I said, some of the lighting and the filters and things like that. But yeah, like I said, it's quickly paced. Like I said, it doesn't linger on scenes for too long. It has just enough fun and just enough gore to like please you. And like I said, I think it hits that part of me, like that was the kid that fell in love with like Evil Dead 2 when I was a kid, where you're like, oh my God, like what the hell am I watching? And you're just so in love with it from minute one, so yeah, to me it's a solid 8 out of 10.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mark, for introducing us to Wolfcop.
Hell
absolutely.
And speaking of wolves, let's talk a bit about Wolf Hollow. So tell me a bit about
what's that?
What's that? Well, tell me about Wolf Hollow. How did you come up with this film?
So Wolf Hollow actually was the follow-up. I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with Massacre Academy, which is the 80s slasher that we did before this one. And we were kind of coming off the back of that one. And so it was kind of like everybody, we were finishing Massacre up. And it was one of those things where I looked into my bag of tricks and I was like, what do I want to do next? Like, what's the next kind of story that I want to, kind of sink my teeth into, no pun intended. But it was one of those things where I was like, you know what? I don't think werewolves get enough fucking love like that. And for some reason, it just stuck out to me. I was like, I want to stay in the horror genre. I want to tell a bit more of a personal story. And almost immediately, like werewolves just popped out, and I didn't really have a story at the time. I was just like, but I knew that it was going to be wolves and werewolves. And so I kind of like, as we finished editing Massacre, the story slowly started to kind of present itself in my head. And I was like, and I would write it down every couple of weeks. I'd write some extra, story points down. And then eventually I started to just turn out drafts. And it was like, you know what? I think I've got something really solid here. And eventually, like I said, I think I turned this around probably the fastest that I've ever turned a script out. And just because it was a lot of personal stuff in the movie, but it was also probably the funniest thing that I've ever written. So, so there's definitely a lot of passion in Wolf Hollow. And it's first and foremost, like I just want it to be entertaining as fuck. And I think, like I said, talking about Wolfcop, it's a movie like that where it's like, we're not trying to, turn in Shakespeare here. We're trying to just have a great time at a movie,
Awesome. So you've got a lot of names in this. Like you've got some big names in this. You've got Lynn Lowry, you've got Felissa Rose. You also have a ton of local talent that John and I both know. So tell us about how it was trying to work with these actors in kind of getting your vision of a werewolf movie together.
So it's actually like, it was so serendipitous. Like everybody kind of just fell into place, to be honest with you. So like, for instance, like with Lynn, like, I mean, she's the first one you mentioned. Lynn literally fell into my lap. Like we were kind of posting that we were starting to cast for Wolf Hollow. And if I'm not mistaken, at the time, like we were just friends on Facebook, like of all places, like, we're kind of in the horror community. We're starting to travel in the same circles. And Lynn reached out and she was like, is there anything available? And I was like, actually, you know what? There is definitely a role for you here. Cause I was kind of, like I said, we had an old horror icon, legend type character that was, we were thinking about. And when she reached out, like I had literally just kind of put the finishing touches on that role. And so I sent it to her and I was like, you know what? This kind of might be up your alley here. And sure enough, like she fell in love with the character. So there wasn't a lot of kind of going back and forth and trying to figure out who that role was going to be. Like we kind of knew from day one. And with my process, especially on Massacre Academy, like I said, with a lot of the local actors, we kind of wrote them specifically for certain actors and actresses that we'd worked with, and like Jess Euler, Christina Krakowski, Brandon Crum, who in Massacre Academy was with us for like maybe like a day and a half. And even just that experience, I was like, Brandon, we're going to have to work on something together soon. And sure enough, like as I was writing Wolf Hollow, I kind of pitched him maybe like by the third draft. I kind of pitched him. I hadn't really shared it with anybody yet, but he was the first one that I turned to, and I was like, hey, I've got this character named Lucky Steve, and I think you're the guy for him. And so I would send him drafts, and he like, it was so organic, but it was kind of like I said, especially in his situation, it was just written for Brandon. So I got really lucky with a lot of the rules in that way. And then beyond that, once our producers came on from Connecticut, like Dan Kearney, we started pulling from guys and girls that he had worked with already. And so we pulled a lot of experienced film actors that were in the genre already. They understood what it takes to be on set. They understand how long effects are going to take sometimes. And so that in and of itself is a huge blessing, because you've got people who are patient. You got people who understand how to bring it, at any given time. And then we got lucky with other people who had never made a film before, and this is their first movie, and they absolutely crushed it. So like I said, so it's a nice mix of veterans, of people who had never worked in film before, but who have stage experience. So like I said, it's just a huge fucking blessing all the way around.
Awesome. How, like you mentioned the effects, like if we're saying that the effects in, say, like, American Werewolf of London and The Howling are kind of like, that's the apex of werewolf effects, and then you've got like Wolfcop. Where do the effects in Wolf Hollow kind of fall?
I would say we're probably firmly on the Wolfcop side. Just cause, and again, that was one of those things. It was definitely a decision on our part where it was like, okay, we're going to have some gore, and we're going to have some situations where we're really going to try to make people uncomfortable, and we're going to make them go, "Ooh, goddamn, that's brutal." But then there were other moments where it was like, okay, let's be real here. We're tearing people's throats out. We're squashing people's eyeballs out. We're tearing arms off. Like, let's not take it too seriously. Let's have some fun with it. And so by the time you kind of give that brief to your effects artists, they kind of know, okay, we've got some room to really go far here. And there was some situations where even, months before, while we're doing prep, they're coming up with like, I think one of our girls, Thrace, came up with, I think it was a term called blood slime, where it was like just this gooey shit that you would just cake onto wounds. And so the moment you would pull something, like, it just looks like sinew. It looks like, and it just looks visceral. And you're like, that fucking works. Like, you backlight that and you just kind of squirt blood all over it, and it looks amazing. So like I said, it was one of those things where as we went further and further along, it kind of almost became absurd. So to the point where, like, the last day where we're kind of covering everybody in blood and just like, we're going as giallo as possible at that point, where I was like, they're like, is that too pinkish or too orange? I'm like, no, like that fucking works, because it's just so over the top. You're like, I want it to be over the top by this point, guys. So that's okay. So it's a good mix. It's a good mix of being brutal and then just being totally, just giallo, over the top, Suspiria colored blood. So.
Very cool.
I always, whenever we have filmmakers, I like to ask this. Now, what issues did you run into? Like, because every indie film I've ever seen or ever worked on, there's always some issue that happens. Maybe it's in getting the film kind of completed and getting distribution and getting, just even the day-to-day of, the production of it. Did you run into any issues with this film that you want to maybe, clue us into exclusively?
Yeah, there's well, luckily in terms of distribution, like we're in charge of our own distribution at this point.
Nice.
So we haven't signed over to anybody yet. So we're kind of in charge of our own destiny, which is really nice to be in charge of. So we're handling sales and stuff like that. But in terms of the day-to-day production, I'll give you a couple of different insights here. So one, we shot here in Pittsburgh, and we shot at there's a place in North Versailles, which is a small township, and they've got a haunted hayride, and it's the Haunted Hills Hayride. If you look them up, they're fucking amazing. Bruce Blissman is the owner. He's a fantastic guy. And we went and we scouted, and we scouted during the summer. It's kind of off season. Nobody's really out there. And you're like, oh, okay, this is great. This is fantastic. And you don't really think about the day-to-day. We're kind of off a main road, so there's not a lot of traffic that you're kind of competing with in terms of sound. So you're like, this is amazing. This is fantastic. And there's like 15, 20 acres out there that you're just running around in. So no one's out there messing with you. And then you get out there during the middle of the summer, and you're shooting from sun up, and sometimes you're shooting until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. And you don't realize that about 1.5 miles down the road, there's a fucking gun range.
Oh,
constantly pow, 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 and you're like, cut, hold for sound, and you're literally having to kind of snake your way in between rounds. You're listening to people firing off machine guns full of rounds of ammunition, and you're going, wait, hold, all right, everybody go, and you're trying to get like dramatic scenes while gunfire is off in the background and kind of interrupting things. And so that was kind of a challenge when we were outside. And so that was more towards the end of the schedule. So it was like, okay, we didn't have to deal with it as much. But one of the worst things that we had to deal with, and again, it's just one of those things that you don't know until you get there, is Bruce's property, like I said, which is amazing. You're out there by yourself. He's got this huge warehouse where they kind of do all their machining, they do all their effects work, and it's fantastic. It's basically like your own personal soundstage. And so, like maybe a quarter of the movie, like right in the middle of the movie, a lot of our characters get trapped in an RV. And so we were like, hey, you know what's great? We can actually park the RV in the warehouse. We can close the shutters. So that way there's no sound, there's nobody bothering us out there, and it's fantastic, and everything's kind of self-contained. So we're getting really clean sound at that point. Mm-hmm. And so we're in this RV, and we've got the windows closed, we've got everything, and you can't run air conditioning because it's, you've got atmospherics, you've got smoke, and you don't realize that when you've got 8 people screaming their heads off in tight quarters like that, they generate a lot of body heat. Oh, and that body heat does not go anywhere. And so we would be in there for takes at a time, and we'd go, okay, everybody get the fuck out because we're all dripping wet now. We're all fucking soaking, like just our shirts are just drenched. And so everybody clears out. We open up windows, and there's no ventilation. So that air just stays in there. And so we go back in after we've refreshed, and it's still fucking hot. So you're spending 5 or 6 hours in there just sweating your asses off. And it's like, oh my God, but you don't know that until you're actually on set. And so that was probably one of the toughest things. So when you're watching the movie, when you're watching people, like if you're looking at them sweating, you look like it works in the scene because everyone's, at a fever pitch, they're nervous, they're scared, but you're like, my God, everyone is soaking wet, and it's all real at that point. So yeah, wow. no prop sweat at that point.
The beauty of filmmaking,
Yeah,
people don't know some of the shit that goes into it.
Everyone comes out with swamp ass. That's
right. And
if you made a movie,
I'm trying my hardest to hold onto the camera while my hands are sweaty, and I'm like, oh dear God, please don't drop the camera, please don't drop the camera. So yeah, there's a lot of that in that middle act when they're all inside the RV.
Awesome. So tell me a bit about this premiere. This premiere is happening on April 1st. right?
April 1st, over at the Hollywood Theater in Dormont, which is, like I said, maybe like 5-10 minutes north of downtown Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So, but yeah, well, like I said, we've got a red carpet event. Lynn Larry will actually be with us on the red carpet, as well as some of our cast and crew. Like I said, it's going to be an amazing night. We're actually being sponsored by Altered Genius Brewing Company,
Nice.
which is another brewing company here in Pittsburgh. And like I said, it's just it's going to be a fantastic night. We've got some interesting VR experience stuff that's going to be part of the night too. So we'll have DVDs on sale. We'll have possibly some of our suits out there to take pictures with. But yeah, it's going to be an amazing night. So yeah, I definitely encourage
Tickets
everyone
are
to
still
get the tickets
available?
now. Tickets are still available. Like I said, you can go on to eventbrite.com. If you just look up Wolf Hollow Red Carpet Premiere, I think is how it's listed. Like I said, you can still get the tickets. Tickets are $25 right now. And if you go on Indiegogo, we still have our VIP passes that are available. So our Indiegogo campaign was actually really successful. So it's still considered an in-demand campaign. So like I said, so all the perks are still there. They're still available. So you can go on there and buy Blu-rays, DVDs as well. So
Awesome. I did want to ask you, because you did bring up Indiegogo. What do you think separated your film from other films that maybe haven't had the success of Indiegogo? Because I know I've met a lot of filmmakers who they've tried the Indiegogo route and it doesn't work out for them. What did you do that was different that really contributed to the success?
So first and foremost, I mean, it wasn't all me. It was definitely our team effort. And I know that sounds kind of trite. Like it sounds like, that's just kind of a pat answer, but it's the truth basically. Is I listened to a lot of people and what they had experience doing and what worked for them, what didn't work for them. We had a lot of meetings prior to our Indiegogo even just going live, where it was like, okay, what perks have worked before for you guys? What perks didn't work? And like I said, there was so many great suggestions from other people that were more experienced at running those campaigns. And so we kind of pared it down and said, okay, on the first, rollout, let's do these 10, perks or whatever. And one of the successful things that we used to our advantage was it not necessarily that we aimed low, but we set a reasonable first tier for our fundraising. And so like initially I had wanted to like start off with like 30,000 as our goal. And one of our producers, Dan Kearney, had kind of mentioned, he was like, you know what, maybe we should bring it down a little bit lower. So that way we actually hit our goal much sooner. And then once you've kind of hit 100% of your goal, the Indiegogo campaign or the page itself basically the site starts working in your favor. The algorithm starts to kick in. Now all of a sudden you're an in-demand campaign because you've already hit your goals, and you start trending on the main page. So within a couple of days, we were already trending on the main page. Wow. So that was one of the successful things. We were like, you know what? That was a great fucking idea. That was fantastic. But I think one of the other things that we were really good about was being clear from the beginning what our campaign was about, what our movie was going to be about, what it looked like, what it was going to sound like, we were able to detail pretty much everything and say, here's what the experience is going to be like. We're going to have a little fun with it. It's going to be kind of gory. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And I think audiences respond to that. I think people, especially when they're looking for a campaign, they're looking for clarity. They're looking for, do you have an idea of what you're going to do? Do you have a really good concrete goal in mind? And I think for us, that was one of our benefits is like, oh yeah, no, we know exactly what we want to do. And I think coming off of Massacre Academy, I think that worked in our benefit as well, in our favor as well, where it was like, I've already got experience doing something that people generally liked anyway. And so going into Wolf, it was you definitely have a lot more confidence, I guess, kind of going into that, where you're like, I'm really confident in my ability and what I can do and what I can pull off and how clear I can be in kind of expressing that to an audience and saying, this is what the experience of that movie is going to be like. So, and I think from our pitch videos, I think people got a really good sense of, our sense of humor and, how far we were going to go with certain things.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. John, final thoughts for Mark and Wolf Hollow and Wolfcop.
I'm just well, and Wolfcock. Yeah.
Wolfcock.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm excited that, anybody can put together a film, on an indie budget and have that dedication and get that out there. So I think that's awesome. So I want to just also reiterate, because you never hear it enough, April 1st, Hollywood Theater, Dormont. So it's April Fool's Day, but it's not a trick. There really will be a premiere. So April 1st, Dormont.
Exactly.
Yeah.
April Wolf's Day is there you go.
Nice. April Wolf's Day. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.
No, and I will talk to my wife and see about if we can make the premiere.
If not, like I said, we'll definitely get you guys at another screening. Or if you guys actually, we are gonna have a VIP screening privately, and that, like I said, I will send you. I won't give you the details here on the show, but like I said, if you guys want to make that, that's gonna be March 18th. We've got a private screening set up. So that way, and we'd love to have you guys just to kind of give us feedback as people who, like, you haven't seen the movie, you don't know, like, and that way, like I said, you guys go into it and go, all right, give us your honest feedback, so.
Okay.
We'd love to have you guys.
Awesome. Definitely look at the premiere on April 1st. Definitely look at the premiere April 1st. John, where can they find you at on the internets?
No, I'm off the grid.
You're off the grid.
I don't even own a microphone. I don't own a computer. Oh wait. Oh shit. No, I'm doing a podcast. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and obviously J-Dub's Video Nasties over on YouTube. I will have very, very shortly here my You Only Live Twice check-in.
Oh God. Mark, have you checked out any of John's videos, his J-Dub's Video Nasties videos at all?
I have not yet.
Oh, you gotta. This man,
smash that like button.
You gotta check him out, because this man right here, he takes what we do here on this podcast and is able to distill it into the craziest yet most accurate critique of some of the things. Like, he just did one on Mrs. Doubtfire that had me literally rolling on the floor laughing. Like, I was cracking up on some of the things. And
I'll be looking at that at work tomorrow, though.
His Only Live Twice video. Oh man, there's a lot to unpack with a lot of James Bond movies from the 70s and 60s, and a lot of racism. Oh man, so much racism. But glad to know that video is coming, John. So you can find me at Brian Coddington on Twitter. You can also find me at Psycho Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As I mentioned at the top of the show here, if you want to take this conversation on the go with you and get a bit more face-to-face or wolf-to-wolf action, come on our Discord channel. There's a link to it in the description of this episode. I'm really trying to grow that because I really want to try to get engagement from our audience and make it a place that people can just kind of, bullshit about movies, because that's what I love to do. That's what John loves to do, and I'm glad, Mark, that you're here to do that with us too. So yeah, go check out the Discord channel, click the invite, come on and talk with us. Also, if you don't want to be cool like that, that's cool too. You can email us at cinemapsychoshow.com, and be sure to follow and subscribe and click and listen to us wherever you listen to audio, and we will see you next time.
And if you want to hear more about mythical fallacies, you can follow my new podcast, Monster Cocks, streaming now.